So the journalist says, despite the recent spate of depressing political news, many investors are putting money into stocks. Clearly, these investors are confident of increased growth in the country's economy. Thus, since voter confidence in the economy tends to favor incumbent political leaders, it is likely that the party now in power will retain power after the upcoming elections.
All right, so what is our conclusion?
Thus, since voter confidence.
Okay, what part of that sentence though?
The last part. It is likely that.
Excellent. And then, so we're saying, and why are we saying that?
Because the investors were confident of increased growth in the economy. Like they're putting money back into the stocks because they're confident. So he's saying like voter confidence in the economy, they tend to always vote for incumbent leaders. So that's why they will be likely to win again.
Cool. And then real quick question, Malika, what part of the argument is this here?
That's the background, right?
Yeah, yes, but like but more specifically, like what is, like whenever we say despite?
I guess unfortunately the lack of concession.
Yeah, it's kind of an example of a concession, right? Like despite this, many investors are putting money into stocks. So we're saying despite the recent space, we have despite the depressing news, many, and what does many mean, Malika?
Some, but not all, more than one.
Yeah, more than one. Excellent. So some's at least once, many is more than one. Excellent. So more than one investor, so maybe two, are putting money into stocks. These maybe two investors are confident of increased growth in the country's economy. And since voter confidence in the economy tends to favor incumbent political leaders, it is likely the party now in power will retain power. What is the flaw, Sabrina? What is this journalist assuming?
Assuming that just because they decided to put money back into like stocks, that the party in power is going to retain power.
So we have to assume our premises is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so while I would grant you that this is kind of this is our subsidiary conclusion, I would kind of play on the side of our subsidiary conclusion becomes a premise, so we're taking it as true.
Okay.
So let's say that these investors are confident in the increased growth of the economy.
Oh, that like their business or stock opinions the same as their political opinion, kind of thing. I think that's the answer choice. If I remember, I just like remembered when I reviewed this, but yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
These investors are confident in the increased economy, that since voter confidence economy tends to favor incumbent political leaders. Okay, but still, does anybody else see a flaw here?
I think it's the assumption that the general public, the general like voting public, is aware at all of what the investors know, and I think
or what the investors think, right?
Yeah, what the investors think. Yeah, their same confidence or whatever in the economy.
Yeah. So like just because the investors have confidence in the economy, does that mean that the voter confidence in general is in favor of that has a favorable view of the economy in general? Maybe these people are jerks and they think that a good economy is when everybody else is screwed because they're making a ton of money. We don't know. All right. So we're looking for a necessary assumption here. So is this a top-down or bottom-up question, Anna?
Top down.
So do we want a stronger or more mild answer choice?
Mild.
We tend to want more mild. All right, so you go ahead and read A for us.
The economic policies pursued by the government are a major factor in producing stock market growth.
Is that necessary?
No.
Nope. All right, what about B, Alicia?
The investment choices of voters tend to reflect their political preferences. That kind of sounds right, but I haven't read the rest of them, so
okay, we can leave it. Let's leave it.
Yeah.
All right, Sabrina, what about C?
The economic attitudes of investors do not differ greatly from those of voters in general. Yeah, I like C.
All right, so okay, Malika, you have D and E. We'll give you the easy ones this round.
Okay. Voters generally attribute some responsibility for the state of the economy to the policies of previous governments. I don't really like that one. And then E, voters are usually more loyal to parties than to individual politicians. I don't like
Cool, right? Like, just because they're more loyal, this has nothing to do with we don't even know what party is in office right now. We're just saying, like, whenever it's good, people tend to not want to change. All right, so Sabrina, go ahead and tell us the difference between B and C.
B, the investment choices of voters. Well, we don't know, I guess, how many of the voters are like the investors, in that sense, if that makes sense.
And what does investment choices reflecting political party mean? Like,
Yeah.
what I invest in is based on, like, depending what party I am, what affiliations I might have of where I don't even know. Like, what happens if they don't? What if I just invest in my, like, it's not relevant, right?
Yeah. And then C, the economic attitudes of investors do not differ greatly. So that was exactly what Alicia had said earlier too. Like, we're just, we would be assuming is that voters are also having the same attitudes. So yeah.
So how would you negate that one?
The economic attitudes of investors do differ greatly from those of voters in general.
And if that happened, then it's like, well, if the economic attitudes of investors is very different from the voters in general, then what would be the voters in general's attitude in here?
That they would not reelect the incumbent. So then the conclusion.
Well, that would be their action. What would be their attitude?
Their attitude would be that they wouldn't maybe want them to be reelected.
I think it's just, I think I'm looking for, like, the investors are confident.
Oh,
so their attitude would just not be, we wouldn't have that sufficient condition there.
Oh, okay, so they just wouldn't be confident.
Yeah, we wouldn't know what would happen. Yep, so C. Excellent.